Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simon and Friends podcast. I'm Simon Short. Joining me this week is Josh Limesand. Josh, how you doing, man? Welcome back.
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. It's good to be back. Feels like it's been longer because it has been longer than a month, hasn't it?
Been 5 weeks. We were
Been
good.
five
We
weeks.
got a
Yeah.
real good sample size going.
Yes, we
Um,
do.
I need to clip, and you're a teacher, so this is perfect. I'm sure you love when people send you all sorts of teacher related internet
Yes.
content. You know the guy, the teacher, and somebody made a video reel of just him walking in and saying hello every morning. And he was wearing the same style clothes every day, but it was always a different like color combination. And he just like walks in the class. She's like, "Hello, class. Hello, class. Hello, class." I want to do that for your introductions, except it sounds more sad each time. And I'm sorry to say that for you, the ever the optimist, but the Vikings fan, where
Oh
all your
man.
Viking stuff is off the wall, your beard and your hair are gone, but you still got the jersey, and
I'm
there's a
yeah.
smile on your face, but it's a little looks a little dead in there.
Yeah, it's
To be honest with
a little bit forced. A little bit forced. These are dark times in Minnesota. It was supposed to be the Max Bros. Hey, this is fun. It's week 18. Let's start the Gophers kid while we rest our starters going into the playoffs. But instead, it's a game we have to have, and there was no chance against, especially against Seattle's defense, who we'll talk about relatively soon, I would
pretty
assume.
soon, pretty soon.
But no, I'm still holding out hope, reliving some glory days. This is a Jared Allen jersey, so we're
There you go.
reliving some of the times that were a little bit more exciting to watch. But yes, the beard's gone, and so is the bad luck for the Vikings. So
Right? Yep.
look for them to finish the season strong, even if we don't quite sneak into the playoffs. So
This will be the
there's your
only Vikings
optimism.
talk that majority of the listeners and viewers will hear for this podcast unless they make it all the way to the last bit of time there. Uh, well, anyways, welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here. If you're here on YouTube, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. If you're listening on audio, as always, thank you once again for taking a listen. Listen, this is Power Rankings 4.0. You know the deal at this time. Me and Josh have our own consensus rank. We do it over a 4 to 5 week sample size, 5 week in this case. So you guys are getting a real treat. And we get a consensus ranking together. I don't share my list. He doesn't share his until we get here to podcast time. So before we get started, quick plug for Box Score Network. Listen, we're going to talk about several teams tonight. Josh's team, my team, several teams that are much worse that are already looking forward to the 2026 NFL Draft. Head over to the Box Score Network YouTube channel where clips from me, clips from Ben and his show on Pro Football Enterprises are already getting you ready for the draft. All right, so we've got player profiles, debates, conversations, film rooms, all going up on the Box Score Network YouTube channel. So make sure you're checking that out and check out the rest of our podcasts. We've got college football. We've got two P's on a pod who are doing NFL and getting into some of the big picture NBA content. Giannis Antetokounmpo's potential trade request as he goes down with a potential calf strain. I'm sure that will be discussed soon on that show. And then Ben, Pro Football Enterprises with Austin and Shane as well. Check everybody out over there. Um, Josh, the power rankings preseason August was for establishing our takes.
Hmm.
2.0 in September was adjusting course on several teams who was much better or much worse than we anticipated. 3.0 last month was decidedly saying who was good and who was not. 4.0 is where we truly are going to sniff out the contenders from the good teams and the teams with hope for the future from the teams that are an abject disaster. How are you feeling about the rank as we get into 4.0, the real meat, I would say, of our power rankings?
So I will kind of do what I always do. I'll celebrate the things I've said that make sense, and I will quickly gloss over my terrible takes. No, actually, I'll point out a couple of things. I think, the biggest thing is that we're not going to talk about the Raiders anytime soon. And I keep thinking about the Raiders as a team that I was like, and we talked about this. There was going to be stability. Their
Hmm.
offensive line was going to be good enough to let Ashton Genty do his thing because Ashton Genty looks great. He just can't get anything going. But we're not going to talk about the Raiders for a while. But when I look at the rankings, the 4.0, I'm immediately pointing out the ones that I feel like, ooh, I don't like the things we called about those teams. And then, but I do feel good about some teams. For example, the first thing I did for this iteration of the power rankings was look at, can I put this team at one finally? Because I've
Hmm.
kind of been thinking about this team and then I did. Um, and so we'll talk about them right away. But I was very happy to do that, even if there was something that might have prevented that. just this past week. So
Before I get to the graphic with all the logos and everything, right? Let me lay out how it's going to work for everybody on YouTube. I'm doing the opposite of what you should do on YouTube. I'm describing a visual without showing you guys the visual. So I truly understand how this whole YouTube thing works. One column is my rankings, one column is Josh's rankings. That third column, I haven't always been very organized with how it goes. You guys get what it is. That's the consensus column. But while Josh and I are talking, you're going to see last month's rankings in that column. So that way you can then see me move the pieces around, move the logos around, so you know truly how far up, how far down teams are going. So when you see that, that's what's going on.
yep.
But Josh, before I show the logo, you did the preamble. Let's talk about the team that we both have number one in this power
Mhm.
rankings, and it's the team you tried to. I think you tried to put them at one or maybe two last month, but it's the LA Rams. I think it's the team that everybody kind of knows is the best team in the NFL. I think, really, essentially, since our last podcast, maybe a week or two after, everyone was like, "Yep, that's the best team in the NFL." They're 9-3 on the season, 4-1 this month, with just a loss this past week to the Carolina Panthers of all teams.
Yeah.
But they also beat the Saints, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Bucks. So that's a pretty good slate of games. In DVOA, they are ranked second overall, first in offense, and fourth on defense. Um, Talk to me about the LA Rams, and this is your victory lap because you've been the one higher on this team than even me all season long. So talk to me about the Rams at one.
Yeah, I was hoping that all their I mean they're what 9-3 right now, and I was hoping that their losses were blips. And so I'm gonna count this Carolina loss as another blip because Carolina, for what it's worth, is while they're wildly inconsistent, they've also been really competitive and their defense is playing really well right now. And so it's kind of they're a good Bryce Young game away from beating a lot of teams. So it's
Hmm.
it's not like an embarrassing loss. It kind of is if you're the number one overall team, but for a team that had won, I think four straight before that, the Rams, I think, earned the right to call this a little bit of a blip. And so, you mentioned the DVOA stats. They're also number one overall on defense graded by PFF. And usually, kind of the way I think about the Rams is like when you see a team that's had an elite defense that's been able to go deep into the playoffs, they're usually dealing with kind of a middling, mediocre game manager type quarterback. The difference with the Rams is they have a quarterback that can still really light it up. And so when you look at that team going into the playoffs, like they can run the ball, they can pass the ball, they can rush the passer, they can cover the pass. They have kind of all facets of the game locked in. And and not only that, they have a quarterback with experience, which I think is really important when it comes to the playoffs. Like Stafford knows when he needs to turn it on, he knows when he needs to try to take a risk, and he knows when he can just do the smart thing, slow it down, and they're going to win some games. And so I just feel like, I was going to also say at the preamble a little bit, I forgot to mention it, but there's a lot of parity right now. There's not a few teams that
Hmm.
are dominant, dominant. And so when I look to see that there are a lot of teams kind of quote unquote in the mix, I look at the Rams as a pretty consistent force, and with Stafford as that stabilizing force when it's not going perfectly well, when it's not super efficient. Um, they're definitely not a team anyone in the NFC wants to see in the playoffs, and I can't with confidence say even the Eagles are going to beat this team. They're going to knock this team out, right? And so outside of that, I mean, they're at this point for me, they're kind of a shoe in to get to at least the NFC Championship game, and then they would be barring some hijinks and some goofiness perhaps to lose and not make it to the Super Bowl, but that's kind of how high I am on the Rams because that defense is so good, and the NFC West is really good this year. Um, and so they're not coming from, you know, a division where they're getting some easy wins that they can sleep through. And maybe that's what they did against Carolina this past week is just slept through things. But um, and we haven't even mentioned Devontae Adams yet, been a touchdown machine recently. And
Hmm.
the other stat I brought this up on the last pod, and I'll mention it a couple times tonight. But the red zone plus minus. The good teams are near the top and the bad teams aren't. And the Rams are. Sorry, I thought I had this written down, but I do not
Gotta
have it
be
written
like
down. It's
first.
in my
Gotta be
yes,
first.
they're first. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're plus 99 in the red zone. The next team is 15 below that at plus 84. We'll talk about them really quick here soon too. But it sounds kind of silly because obviously good teams that score more in the red zone are going to put up more points and win more games. It's a crazy concept, but when you're looking at it from this angle, like through week 14 or through week 13,
Right.
these are the stats that matter because there are some anomalies and there are some teams that have to settle for more field goals than others, and
Yes.
that does make a difference over the course of games. And so I'll always think back. I think it was in the last for the last power rankings. So it doesn't really apply here, but the game where Stafford only threw for like 180 yards, but he had four touchdown passes, right? Those were
Right.
all red
Hmm.
zone touchdowns. Like when you have that level of efficiency, usually when it almost gets harder for the offense when you have to limit the playbook. You can't send your receivers on enough craziness to make confusion. You have to be really smart in the red zone. Um, and an experienced quarterback like at Stafford's level is huge. So I don't look at the Rams and see many flaws. Now, if they lose again, if they go on a little, two games losing streak after losing to the Panthers, I might start to dive a little deeper. But for right now, they're definitely the team to beat in the NFC. And the AFC doesn't have the same few dominant teams that we've grown accustomed to over the past few years. So if they get there, I mean, who's gonna stop the Rams? I don't know. Well coached, all the things.
And their losses, their three losses, they're one of the few teams this year that don't have a real stinker, right? Even in their losses. Their three losses are all by one possession or fewer.
Right.
They've been against the 49ers, they've been against the Eagles, and then this Panthers game, which again, Panthers are Panthers are feisty, man. They do a lot of things well, and it's just up to the quarterback what he's going to be like that day. Um, so I think this is great. I think this is the perfect rank. Um, but Josh, after this, man, we get a little silly. This might be the furthest apart we are in a top eight all
Yes.
season. So let me pull that up for everybody.
Yes.
Um, Now, number two, we're consensus on. We both have the Green Bay Packers. Now, half of our listeners and viewers just turned this thing off, man. The amount of guile I get about Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers and where I'm at with them is insane. But when I got that notification from you, I was telling you before, just I don't look at your rank when you send them, but you sent it last night around midnight. And I'm on my computer doing stats, and I just see in the little notification at the top, I see Rams and I see Packers, and I'm like, that SOB, man. I thought I was gonna have to fight him on this. This is the Packers. He's always lower on them than I am.
It's
And
gross
but I
seeing
was
that.
ready for it. I think like you, I think you're gonna say the same thing. Like I couldn't just sit there with the Chiefs, the Bills, or the Eagles still
Yeah.
at number two. Like I needed to punch those guys a little bit.
Yes.
So I was like, who? And the Rams just felt like, okay, yeah, we even though this is the first time in our ranking they're one, we've known they're number one for like 3, 4 weeks now, I would say. So it's like who's the team that I'm gonna have some gumption about and really go after? And little did I know, here you are with the Packers at two as well. So the Packers this season are 8-3-1. They're 3-2 this month. They have wins over the Giants, the Vikings, the Lions, losses to the Panthers. There's the
Hmm.
Panthers again, and the Eagles.
They
DVOA
lost
on the
to the Panthers
season.
at Lambeau too, which is insane to me. Will always be insane to me.
You just never know, man. As my daughter saw me putting these logos together, and she was like, "What are those little cats doing?" I was like, "Those little cats are just, they're just messing people up every once in a while." So, DVOA on the season for the Packers are fifth overall, fourth on offense, seventh on defense. One of I think just four teams that are in the top 10 across the board in that metric. So, they're setting themselves apart analytically as well, which they always do. But man, when things are right, this team is as right as anybody from a quarterback, coaching, roster, and playmaking standpoint. I did check because I thought this was going to be the biggest divide where we had the high expectations going into the season. And then I was like, why don't we quite believe? And now I'm feeling a lot better about him. Christian Watson came back 4 or 5 weeks ago in the game against the Steelers. Statistically, it's not bearing out that it's making a huge difference. I thought we'd see something in the efficiency or in the first downs or points per game, whatever. And not really. There's spike weeks, there's down weeks, kind of like there always is with the Packers. But just structurally, it just makes more sense. Like he's there number one when he's healthy. Even if Romeo Dubs is that like more classic X receiver, um, everyone just kind of gets back in their place when he's there. So even though they've been missing Tucker Kraft over this stretch,
Yep.
this offense and this team just makes more sense when Watson is out there stretching the field and being a big playmaker. So I moved the Packers up significantly just because I think I trust that offense top to
Yep.
bottom. I trust that defense now top to bottom, and I think they've unlocked something on each side of the ball that's really helping them just kind of find their groove right now, even with a couple tough losses in their rear view. That it just feels like they've found their stride. So talk to me about moving the Packers up.
Yeah, a couple things you mentioned are, that I wrote down as well. I immediately made the Christian Watson connection, and I'm not going to sit here either and say that he's some elite receiver, but there's something to be said for being willing to go downfield. There's another team coming up I'm going to talk about where it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to have the defense needs to be worried about it, needs to consider it, you know. And he hits Christian Watson for a big touchdown against the Lions on Thanksgiving. Like it's when it hits, it's a big deal, and when it doesn't hit,
Mhm.
at least it keeps defenses having to think a little bit, opens up the running game, and so their offense feels like it's coming into its own. It's clicking a little bit better than it was. And then the Micah Parsons factor is still really huge. I know it seems like an obvious take, but he completely wrecks plays and influences almost every play. And so their defense is not amazing. Their defense is not necessarily top tier. It's not bad. It's definitely solid. It's not top tier, but it's definitely solid. But they have just enough playmakers, and they have the Micah Parsons factor where it can wreck a game in a moment. And so it's hard to be consistent against the Packers defense is maybe the way to put it. They're not going to shut anybody out necessarily, but they're not going to shut good offenses out necessarily is what I would say. But and you can run on them. Even the Vikings ran on them a little bit with a kind of a really mediocre offensive output. But they know what they're doing. They know they're allowing that because they know where they're going with it. They have a game plan, so they don't. It's not like the end of the world when they give up some drives because they know they're not always going to give up drives. They know that for every two drives they give up a touchdown and a field goal, the next three could be punts or a key sack on third down because of Micah Parsons, and so they have a recipe to be successful. And so as long as their offense continues to this uptick, it's hard to bet against them. And I've been trying to bury them for that tie against the Cowboys since the beginning of the season, and the
That's not
Cowboys are
looking too
good
bad
now.
either now.
The Cowboys defense is not even completely laughable. I mean, it's still bad, but it's not completely
And it was
laughable
it
because
was way worse in week 4 or whatever it was than it
right,
is right now.
right. But when you look at that 8-3-1 record, and you're like, yeah, I mean, this team they took care of the Lions on Thanksgiving. Like this is they're a real team. Um, I hate it. It says it's gross to me that they're the second logo on our thing here, and but I don't trust the Bears to stay at the top of the North. And now that they already have a leg up on the Lions because they've swept the Lions this year,
Hmm.
um, the Packers are going to win the North. And it sucks, but that's what's going to happen. And I think they're going to be well tested and well prepared for the playoffs. So it's and again, with a league of parity, I didn't want to move them up to number two. It doesn't feel like they're the second best team, but when you look into it a little bit, they've definitely earned it for now. And so you have to so let no one ever, and I know I say this every time because I'm such a crazed Vikings delusional fan, but I have to, yeah, everyone has to notice where I had them at the start of this. Like I have them about as high as they'll ever be in a power ranking. So I will not hear any sort of bias slander, I guess.
Yeah, no, we're I mean now at this point, I'm sure we can find some other examples in the past or maybe even later tonight that will as you will see, we don't see the Lions in Josh's top 8. So he had to sacrifice one
I
to
did.
make some room for a different NFC North team. All right, let's get into the rest of this group here because it gets a
Yep.
little silly. So we both have the Chiefs and we both have the Patriots, but we have them completely flip-flop at 3 and 8
Yep.
apiece. I have the Chiefs still at 3. You vaulted the Patriots all the way up to 3. That moves them up, what, 7 spots
It's
from what we had last month, I
it's an
think,
unprecedented move almost.
especially into this port of the ranking. We don't normally move up this high when we're already up here. But we both have the Bills at 4. We have the Eagles just 2 spots away at 5 and 7. So I think that's pretty easy. I have the Lions still up here. You have the Lions down a couple spots. Um, but the Broncos, man, the Broncos. What are we doing here with the Broncos? Because you and I have been on the same page on this for 2 years now.
Yes.
We have not been buying in. We
Nope.
have not been sold the magic beans from Sean Payton. We are not allowing people to forget what watching this team looks like on offense with Bo Nix at the helm. Why are the Broncos getting up here to 6 for you when I think we had them at what 12 last time, so up 6
Yep.
spots?
Yep.
What's going on with the Broncos? And we'll talk a little bit about some of these other teams here, but I think most people know what we're talking about there. What's up with the Broncos getting up to 6?
So I can't. I cannot ignore their defense at this point. They've won 8 straight games. I know this is just in the last four, but they've beaten some good teams. Last year, my whole reason for keeping them down is they couldn't do it against the good teams.
Yep.
They went 9-8 last year. They snuck into the playoffs, but they didn't beat a team that had a winning record. They didn't beat a playoff team in the regular season. Now they have wins against the Chiefs, the Texans, who are turning back into the team we thought they could be. They've beaten the Eagles and so those three plus the Cowboys in there as well. Like they've stymied even the best offense in the league a
Hmm.
little bit. It's just I cannot ignore this team anymore, and I want to keep doing it. So I'm not going to fight for them at 6. I'll tell you that right now. I just when I look at their recent run of victories, it's really hard to argue against them right now. They're 10-2, which is an insane record. They're leading the league in yards allowed per play. I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit biased because one of the guys that you and I liked coming out of the draft, Nick Bonito, is getting a lot of national televised.
Hmm.
What's the word I'm looking for? He's getting lauded on the nationally televised games quite a bit
Yep.
now because he's getting those little player profiles. And he didn't get that his rookie year. He wasn't necessarily like creating too many plays, but he's doing a really nice job. It's just their defense is so stifling. It's hard to ignore because I'm still with you on Bo Nix. I can't envision this team winning the Super Bowl, but I was like, if they're ever going to be in the top 10, this is it. And when I look at the teams, this might be one of those cases where I really, really wanted to punish the Eagles and the Chiefs, perhaps. So I think it probably would have been a little bit more fair if I had had them at like 8. Um, and I think the Lions are in a little bit of a rough patch. Probably punish them too much, so I can probably work with that. I know we because I was focused on getting the Patriots up here because if I think 8 wins in a row is great, the Patriots have won 10 straight games. That is insanity, and I was like, this is an unprecedented move all the way up to the top 5. But I was like, screw it, I'm doing it because
I have a good
so
stat
good.
for you on the Patriots that I think you're gonna like, or maybe you'll hate based on the fact that you wanted them up here. For the Broncos, though, for the Broncos, if we're gonna
Yes.
extend out this win streak,
Yes.
let us not forget the 13-11 win over the Jets. Although that was overseas. Okay, that was
That
that
was
was in that
overseas,
was
yeah.
in that was in Europe. All right,
Still,
whatever.
because no, I'm with you though. I wanted to bury them after that. That was a waste of 3 hours of my
I
life
will I
watching
will
that
help you. I will hand you the shovel. Ready? In that win streak, 33 points against the Giants,
game. Yep.
who are a bottom three defense. Gave up 32 to the Giants in that game as well. The Cowboys, 44 points. That was before that Cowboys defense got rolling. Was that even before the Quinn and Williams trade? No, it probably was a week after or so.
It was
Um,
definitely before the who did they just get as well?
well,
Didn't
Quinn,
they get
Quinn
somebody
Williams
else?
and Logan Wilson, right at the
Yeah, yeah,
deadline. I
yeah,
can't remember when the
yeah.
deadline was at this point. Anyways, whatever. The Cowboys defense the last 2 weeks, I would say, looks very different. Back then, 44
Yeah.
points on them was not impressive.
No.
Um, Can I interest you? I won't talk about 18 to 15 against the Texans because that's, that Texans are an awesome defense. Can I
Yeah.
interest you in 10 to 7 against the Raiders just 3 weeks ago?
That was still when we believed that the Raiders might stabilize.
No, it wasn't. That maybe you. Maybe don't
No,
don't you
I'm just kidding. I'm just
don't you
kidding.
put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Um 22 points on the Chiefs with the way that Chiefs defense is playing right now, and including wasn't that a game-winning field goal in there? So like
Yeah.
really, 19 for a good
Yeah.
chunk of it. And then 27 on the Commanders who have no defense anymore.
Well, and to be fair, they lost the Commanders because I think the Commanders went for 2 instead of just tying the game, I believe. Isn't that
No, they won
accurate?
that game. They won that game. It didn't matter. Whatever. That game didn't matter. 27,
No.
26, right?
Yeah, no, what I mean is I think the Commanders scored a touchdown instead of
Oh, I
keeping the extra
see.
point to
I
tie
see.
it. They
Yes,
they
yes,
went
yes,
for
yes,
2 and
yes.
failed it.
I
So,
see. I see. I
yeah.
see. One
No,
thing I wanted to look
your
up with
points
the
are well taken.
Broncos
I hear you.
because they were one of my teams that I got all the schedule and rankings and everything. And I was like, okay, but let me look at some stats here. What else is happening? And I was trying to buy in a little bit, probably just because I have shares of RJ Harvey in fantasy. And I was like, okay, well, how can we make money off of this, right? J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. Maybe this run game is more explosive. So offensive splits before and after R.J. Harvey kind of became the lead back. He's been on the field more, and there's an uptick in production overall. But it might also just be those bad-ish defenses that I mentioned in the Chiefs and the who do they just play? The Commanders, Chiefs and the Commanders.
Commanders, yeah.
But I think it's still significant that their best rush success offense and their best EPA per rush came in the last 2 weeks, where Harvey is the primary running back. Now he's not rushing for a lot of yardage, but
Right.
he's hitting the holes and he's getting, and he's not hitting all the holes, but he is making just more plays in the run game than J.K. Dobbins was.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of what everybody was looking to see from Harvey this year. If you're a fantasy player, like J.K. Dobbins at some point in the year is going to get hurt, and then Harvey's going to get his opportunity behind a good offensive line. And to relate that to what we're talking about here, can that help the offense be a little more interesting?
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're there because I watched a lot of that Commanders game, and it's still just a lot of Bo Nix doing Bo Nix type things. Um, Screen passes and check downs with
Yeah.
12 yards to go sort of stuff. And I can't get there up here at 6. But we'll talk about it. We'll find a spot for them. I put them at 11. I did move them
Yeah.
up a little bit. We'll probably have to meet somewhere in the middle. I wanna ask you about a interesting thing. I think we usually do it by happenstance, but should we make an official, add a little trickery to this little game we play here? If we have a team in the same spot, should we automatically have to keep them in that spot? And then we have to figure out who we can put above them and who we can put below. Because like right now, for example, and this doesn't usually happen because we don't, especially in the top 8, we usually don't have as big a chasm between 3 and 8, how we have these two teams. So normally I feel like what we do is we would just say, let's just put the Bills at 3 because we have them both at 4, so it'll be the
Right.
easiest.
Right.
Should we I think that's what consensus would say. So we could stick to the true lifeblood of the podcast, or we could get a little tricky, a little difficult,
I think
and say we have to keep them at 4, so we have to figure out who's going to be 3.
I really like it looks really clean in the graphic when we keep the teams that we had in the same spot. Because then we can look back and remember like, hey, for how far off we were on the Patriots and the Chiefs, for example, we had a
Yep.
few teams in here lockstep. So I think that's a fun game too. We have
Okay.
the Bills stay there at 4, and then who's going to go at 3? Because you can talk me out of the Patriots at 3, but I
Oh,
don't know if I can put the Chiefs at 3 right now.
all right. OCD for the win, baby. So we're gonna have the Bills staying at 4. We'll have the Rams and the Packers at 1 and 2. So the Rams are moving up one spot. The Packers moving up 2. The Bills are going to be. They're actually going to be moving up 2. Does that feel right? Is that what? Did we
No,
really put them at
it
6
doesn't.
last time?
I thought I was punishing them.
I thought I was too. Did I? Hang on. Maybe I moved some things around.
Well, so here's the thing with the Bills though. It's not like they've
No, we did have him at 2 last time. All right. So everything that I said about watch the consensus thing move around, that was wrong. The Bills are moving down 2 if we keep them at 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does feel better.
All right. So I got on here and I started looking at this and I was like, that's not what I have written in my notes on any of these movements, and it in fact is. So, um, well, strike for what I was going to do there. The Rams are moving up 3 spots. The Packers are moving up 4 spots. The Bills are going to be moving down 2. Here's my stat on the Patriots because I forget. I think it was this show last month, but it might have even been awards with Peyton, where I was like, I wanted to move the Patriots up, but I ultimately kept them sort of down. We ended up having them at 11 last month. And I
Yep.
think I originally had them at like 13, 14. You had them up a little higher. The reason I was trying to keep them down was the advanced analytics really don't like their defense. And I hold true to that. And that's still the case now. Right now, they are 26th in defensive DVOA, the Patriots are. But then you look at the raw stats, just yards and time of possession and points
Scoring,
allowed,
yeah.
and they're
Yep.
great. They're a top 10 defense if you look at that stuff. So I was like, okay, what do advanced analytics measure, right? What's the true advantage your defense is giving you on a down to down basis? Because what I think is most influencing those raw stats are time of possession. The Patriots offense is so good. It's such a juggernaut. I think they're top 5 in the NFL and how much they have the ball versus the defense. They're just keeping the other team's offense off the field. So that's helping those raw numbers. Analytically, what's happening is teams are able to move the ball on them a little bit. It's not so drastic where it's like, because if you really dig in, like, okay, r- rush defense specifically, they're pretty good. Okay, pass coverage specifically, they're pretty good. Here's the thing: they don't sack the quarterback and they don't create turnovers.
Hmm.
They are 22nd in the league in forced turnovers, and they're 20th in sacks. So I
Okay.
wanted to dig into that a little deeper, right? Because right now, what you're saying by putting them at three is they are inner circle contenders.
Yeah.
And for me having them at eight, I'm like, they're a really good team, but they're not one of those teams this year unless just something weird in the playoffs happens. But I wanted to be able to put numbers to it. Okay. So what I did for the last two seasons in the playoffs, I took the teams that played in the divisional round. So 8 teams over 2 years, 16 teams. And I combined their regular season sacks and forced turnover numbers. Now the Bills or the Patriots of this year, excuse me, that's going to be a little tricky, right? The season's not over. But through how many games have we played? Through 14 weeks, right? 13 games for them, I believe, something
Yep.
along those lines. They have 27 sacks and 14 total turnovers. That's a combined number of 41 right now. That's on pace for 54. It's a combined number of 54. That would be the lowest combined sack and turnover number among all of those 16 teams that have been in the second round of the playoffs in the last 2 years. The lowest number as of right now is a combined number of 58, and that was the Rams last year, where we
Okay.
knew their offense was just on a tear. So that's the likeness, right? That's what you would ascribe them to.
Right.
But we're talking about Matthew Stafford taking the team in that
Yep.
direction with a guy on defense that wasn't getting sacks last year, but Jared Verse, who was crushing pockets and
Right.
we knew instantly was a dude on defense, right? And the
Yeah.
Patriots have guys on defense. Don't get me like Christian Gonzalez is their version of that. It's like a supreme man cover corner, but like they don't have anyone that's really. He's not getting turnovers, and we're not getting a guy that's truly impacting the offense the way Jared Verse was even doing for the Rams last season. Um,
I
so
do.
the
I do
fact
like
that
that.
they would be four combined turnover, what should we call this? I was thinking about turn you overs, right? So like turning over the ball or turning over your quarterback onto the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah. There you go.
Um, so the Patriots are on pace for 54 combined turn you overs, which would be the lowest by four turn you overs. I'm just going to try to keep saying it now. Um, of any
TYOs.
team in the second round of the playoffs last 2 years. So that's the difference, I think.
Okay.
Because, but just like they don't have that splash, right? When you get into playoffs, you're gonna need your defense to truly make a play. You
Yep.
can't just be a bend don't break. You can't just be because you're gonna go up against the best defenses.
Yep.
Now, yeah, it's the AFC, but what if they're playing the Broncos, right? What if they're playing the Broncos or the Tech? It would more likely be the Texans in the first round, right? If they're playing the Texans in the first round, of course they could get to buy whatever semantics, YouTube people. If they're playing the Texans in the first round, you don't think the Texans are gonna get them off the field pretty quick, a couple drives?
Yep.
And then what's their defense going to do if they don't get splash, if they don't get a turnover, if they don't get a sack? The Texans can just march the ball down the field. Now you're giving up touchdowns you weren't giving up in the regular season. So that's why I can't get them quite at three.
I
Um,
I think that's fair. I do like that stat. I mean they're only +1 in the turnover differential anyway, so they're basically breaking even, which is again a sign that they're not. I mean they're definitely not making a ton of mistakes, but they're not getting those opportunistic plays. So I totally get that. Um, I won't fight for them to stay in the top five. I do have a hard time of who we're going to move up there though, because that
yeah.
who has earned that three spot is tough.
Let's make some cases then. So you had the
Yeah.
Patriots. That was your case. I took that from you. Let me try to make the case for the Chiefs. Um, The main case is the Chiefs aren't that different of a team than they were last season. So right now they are 6-6 on the year, 1-3 this month. They've beaten the Col 1-3 this month. They literally have one win in the last month, but that win was against the Colts.
Mhm.
And they lose to the Bills, good team, the Broncos, good team, the Cowboys, good team on Thanksgiving. DVOA, they're still sixth overall, third on offense, and 18th on defense. The first thing I wrote was, I'm so confused because we know this team is better than they were last year. We could see it when we're watching. They're averaging 3 more points per game than last year, which would take them from 15th. They were 15th in scoring last year. They're ninth this year. The defense is still top 10 in scoring, but here's the main difference. The famous one-score game luck has caught up to them.
Yep.
Last year, they were 10-0 in the regular season in one-score games, leading to their 15-2 record. This year, they are 1-6 in such games at 6-6. So this is where we get into the spirit of this exercise. Is it the record we care about, or is it the true mettle and ability of the team? And we shouldn't say mettle because they would be winning one score games. So they had good mettle, right? Like the quality of the team.
Yep.
This team is the same as last year, if not better. And they were number one in our rankings for how many months, right? Um, and also, I just don't see another team that I feel comfortable at the end of the day being saying
Well,
is better than this team in a if we're facing off right now, right? If they're playing the Eagles, I can take the Chiefs to win that game. If they're playing the Bills, I can take the Chiefs to win that game. If they're playing the Lions, I can take the Chiefs to win that game.
yeah.
So that's where I'm at on the Chiefs.
I think, yeah, I think that's a fair argument. And I think that if they get to the playoffs, absolutely, I'm not putting any money against the Chiefs for sure. Like record doesn't when record doesn't matter. If they get to the playoffs, right? When record doesn't matter, um, I'm not betting against them. Like you said, they are better this year than they were last year. Excuse me, but it's still, I mean, still Patrick Mahomes' second worst pressure to sack ratio. When I watch this team, my eye test tells me that they're getting older though. And that's my pushback a little bit on the fact that the team is still good and they're still putting up the numbers. I've seen more uncharacteristic drops from Travis Kelce this year. I feel like Patrick Mahomes isn't quite as elusive and mobile in terms of avoiding sacks. I think their offensive line has some issues here and there, and I don't know. It's tough to bet against them, and they are, like you said, they're still top 10 in offense and defense for sure. But with the 1-3 stretch here, it doesn't have that same allure, that same magic at Arrowhead that we're used to, and it just doesn't feel like they're gonna go win it all this year. So I don't have a convincing argument against because they are the Chiefs and the numbers don't lie, and I would never bet against them when they get to the playoffs. But when I watch them, they don't look like the same Chiefs as they have looked for the past couple of years in terms of winning games.
So if we have to
But
pick a different team, then I've
yeah,
already knocked your Patriots off. Do we just go down the rank here and say, okay, do we fight over Eagles and Seahawks? Who should be at three? Like, how do we move forward?
that's the conundrum. I actually had the Seahawks at 3 for a moment, and I was like, no, they're not. They're just not. 5 feels too high for me at the Seahawks. I was prepared to sink them a little bit. So,
And
um,
I didn't really write anything. I didn't write a whole lot on the Seahawks. So let's talk about the Seahawks real quick. 9-3, 4-1 this month. Wins over the Commanders, Cardinals, Titans, and Vikings. They lose to the Rams. They're still first overall in DVOA, eighth on offense, first on defense, with really only one contender against them in the Texans.
yeah.
But the offense is like still going strong. It's not. What was it? What was it last month when we talked? Let me pull that up. Talk to me about what you have on the Seahawks.
So the my thing with the offense is it feels like it's tapering off a little bit. The numbers are still there, but they had this thing built on being able, like Darnold was super efficient in deep plays, and they had this really explosive offense. But the Vikings, yes, we have a good defense, but we had no offense against them, and they could barely get JSN the ball last week, and Darnold just feels like he's getting back into that where he's going to commit 2 turnovers a game now because it's crunch time. It's the end of the season, and I still when I watch the running game, like they've had a decent running game, and Kenneth Walker looks pretty good, but there's not as many explosive plays. They look very beatable. They look like you can rush them a little bit, and if you can get to Darnold, he's not nearly as efficient. It feels like they're tapering off a little bit. But like you said, up to this point, they've been really, really good. And so I actually had them at 3 for a while because I was trying to bury these teams, and then I was like, I can't do them at 3. I'd rather stand on the hill for the Patriots who won 10 straight than the Seahawks who just beat the Max Brosmer led Vikings. So
Yeah, yeah. I think
so I
that's fair. I think it's a tick up, and they were six in offensive DVOA last month, and they're down to eight. So that's not a hugely significant thing, but it does
no,
match your eye test of it is starting to taper off a little bit.
yeah,
So if we were going to move to the next team to kind of consider there to go to three, it would be the Eagles. Now the Eagles you had at seven with the Chiefs at eight, so maybe you don't feel drastically different about these teams, but the Eagles right now are 8-4, 2-2 this month, but they've beaten the Packers and the Lions, and then they
yeah,
lose to the Cowboys and the Bears. Now and those games were not kind games to trying to defend the Philadelphia Eagles here.
no,
But they're 11th in overall DVOA, 11th on offense, ninth on defense, and they're still getting results for the most part and beating good teams. But it's just a tough watch, and you don't know week to week what you're getting. I at least feel like with the Chiefs, we know what we're getting,
yeah.
right? And it's the evil you know versus the evil you don't. But at the same time, This would be, let's say, if we had the Chiefs at three, they'd be moving down two. But if we had the Eagles at three, they would be staying packed, right? So that's part of our math. Like, who do we want to?
Yeah.
We feel like we got to punish some teams a little bit here. Um,
Maybe we should just put the
how do you
Bills at
feel about the
three.
Eagles?
Is that maybe we should put the Bills at three now? Change our whole
Yeah,
team. No,
let that whole conversation we just had.
the Eagles, like I wrote that I have no idea about this team, or do I? I think much of the excitement of fantasy managers, they're throwing the ball a lot more, and AJ Brown is getting some fantasy points. But the problem is now they're 25th in rushing attempts per game. And how did this team win the Super Bowl last year? They ran the ball incessantly, and they had a lot lockdown defense. Well, the defense is not there. The running game is not there. And we all know that Jalen Hurts, for how good of a competitor he is, he's not the quarterback that's going to throw your offense to victory. He's not going to light it up to lead the team to a Super Bowl. He's going to make plays that's going to look like he is capable of doing that. But if that's the primary goal of the offense to throw the ball, this team is not going to go. This team is not going to go all the way. And so they are winning. They're very frustrating because they are winning games and they've beaten some good teams, but they're not doing it in the way that they've proven in the past. It's made them successful, and it looks different for them. So I don't know. I did have them above the Chiefs because they've knocked out some wins here,
Hmm.
and assuming that the Broncos are not going to stay at six, which I think we've already kind of established. Um, if I slide like what about this scenario? If we slide the Pats down to five and bump the Seahawks to six, no, because then you're going to fight for the Eagles there, aren't you? If I give you the Chiefs at three, would you do would you
Oof.
do would you do Chiefs, Bills, um,
Chiefs,
Patriots,
Bills,
Eagles,
Eagles,
Patriots,
Seahawks, or
Eagles,
Seahawks, Eagles?
Seahawks? Yeah. If I flip-flop my Eagles and Seahawks, but I get the Patriots at the tail end of the top five, or are you unwilling to put them in the top five? That's the
Well, oh man, I knew it was gonna bite me in the butt that I didn't do this. I was gonna try and do the Eagles and the. I'm okay with pushing the lines down for sure.
Okay. Oh yeah, I
Because
forgot about the lines.
here's where Josh was out on the lines this month, guys. He didn't even include them in the ranking he sent me, and I had to say where are the lines. He was like, "Oh no, did I have them too low?" I was like, "You didn't even put them in your ranking, man." Um, no, but I think what you're putting down, I'm picking up. So let's do this live, right? Let's do this live.
Okay.
And by the way, I went back and looked when I put this screen away for a little bit, everybody. And for some reason, it was just those first couple teams were weird. I think I started pre-tinkering with it at some point. All the other ones are in the right place in terms of what we had last month. So you're going to see us. So the Eagles were at three last month. The Chiefs you saw were all the way up at one. Um, if we put the Chiefs at three, have the Bills at four, you're saying have the Eagles.
If I would still advocate for the Patriots at five.
Oh yeah, you said Patriots first. Yep. So here's the fun part, real peek behind the curtain here. Here's the Patriots all the way down here at 11. We're gonna move them up. This is exciting on YouTube, right? This is what people go on YouTube to watch.
Uh,
Bucks, you're gonna go away. See, normally I hide this, but I thought this would be a fun way to actually use this. I don't know. I have some regret on that right now.
no, I think it looks great. And I will say about the Lions, I didn't mean to bury them too much, but they are going through a rough patch. And I was reading up on some of the articles from the local Lions reporters, and they failed on like seven consecutive aggressive
Yeah,
fourth down
it's
attempts. So it's kind of like the live and die with the Dan Campbell aggression. Like when it's clicking,
yeah.
they look amazing. But in this little rough patch where they've missed on seven in a row, they kind of look bad almost. They also had the unfortunate situation of having to play the Jameis Winston-led Giants, who were just dominant in that game. They were so good.
Yeah,
Jameis was running for receiving touchdowns, like epic.
um all right. So if we're also gonna kind of take my like who's really a contender versus who's just good,
Yeah,
I'm happy to have the Patriots behind those top four teams, but ahead of the Eagles and the Lions. Yeah, I don't think this just does not feel the way like it should for the Lions.
right.
And the Eagles, same thing. Like the fact that the Rams last year were at least close with that 58 turn you over number,
Hmm.
turn you overs number, um, like I can get behind. And I know the Patriots have guys like Milton Williams or Harold Landry who could kind of go on a little like Frank Clark-esque postseason tear. There's one for Ben, Frank Clark mentioned. Or like Christian Gonzalez could just have like two picks in a game, right? Do
Yep.
something. They have the guys to create that splash. That's not what they're built on. That's not how they're winning right now, but they have the guys to do it. Um, so listen, I would even give you here the Seahawks above the Eagles because I still at
Okay.
least like what they're doing a
Well,
little bit more than Philly.
and out of the teams that we have on the screen right now, the Seahawks to me are the easiest to be removed from this list because I'm starting to view shades of last end of last season. Maybe it's just
Mm.
PTSD for the Vikings fans, but it's I, it's getting kind of weird offensively there in Seattle. So they need their defense to be perfect, and we'll see when they get tested against an offense not ours that can actually test them a little bit. So let's give them their flowers now at 6. I like that.
So the pretty flowers. So if we kept to the eight like this is the Rams moving up three, the Packers up four, the Chiefs
Mhm.
down two, the Bills down two. The Patriots would be moving up six, which feels like a manageable number. I
That's a
think that's
lot.
fine. The Seahawks would be going up one spot,
Mhm.
two spots. That's not bad. The Eagles would be moving down from what's that, three to seven, so moving down four, and the Lions down two spots, six to eight.
Yep. The Eagles one feels a little bit overly punitive, but at the same time,
Should we
we're it's mainly because we're bringing other teams in, so I don't know. I don't hate it.
should we maybe flip the Seahawks and the Eagles, which was the way you originally kind of reached our
I
compromise? And it's
think,
funny because we did this with the Chiefs and the Patriots. Eagles and Seahawks we had flipped as well. I had the Eagles at five, you had Seattle. I had Seattle at seven, you had Philly. So
yeah.
um what do you think? Should we maybe flip those back? Seahawks at seven, Eagles at
Yeah,
six?
and I put the Eagles at 6. The last thing I wrote about them was they are here because of track record, league parity, and track record. So I think track record is enough to get them above the Seahawks here.
And those wins, man, if they were just playing well against the bad teams and clearly losing to the good teams, but like
Yep.
they beat the Packers, they beat the Lions who are on this page,
Yep.
so I think it's okay that we do that.
Yep.
Um, all right. Those Broncos, man. Can't believe that. That felt like such betrayal. All right.
You were just super annoyed with me, I bet secretly because we ruined our last time we had all top 8 teams locked in, didn't we? Wasn't
Dude,
last time the one that we
yeah,
had all
no. We've been on a roll, man. No, we're
yeah.
47, 48 minutes into this podcast right now. We're just getting to the next group. That's okay. The last tier is certainly going to be
Quick.
an afterthought because when Josh was doing all of his tinkering and moving teams around, he just stopped sending me the last eight. He was like, "Yeah,
They're
I'm not
good.
even really thinking about these guys." Although I do have one strong take when we get to the bottom, but
Ooh,
by then I know
spicy.
you won't. Yeah, everybody stay tuned. Everybody don't touch that dial. Um, but I know Josh won't have any issues with that. All right, so here we are, nine
Top
through
8.
16. Let's see what kind of chunks we can do this in. So obviously the Colts are going to end up staying at nine. Some chinks in the armor. We kind of anticipated that. Literally some chinks in Daniel Jones's leg, which
Seriously.
is tough, but that's where we're at. Obviously, we have to monitor the Sauce Gardner situation. In the 5 weeks since we've had this podcast, the Colts have traded for Sauce Gardner, and now he has a calf strain, which certainly perks up the ears of sports fans everywhere. So we have that to deal with. And then, we got some stuff to sort out here. I have the Niners at 10, um, which was kind of a last minute play by me because I had the Broncos at 10 for a while and I was like, if I know we do it in chunks of 8, but if I'm thinking about my top 10, I want the Niners in there instead of the Broncos, hence the 10, 11.
Hmm.
But you have the Niners down there at 13. You moved the Jags up pretty late in your ranking. You put them up at 11. I had them down at 15.
Yeah.
Houston, we both kind of moved back up. The Bears, you gave a big jump. The Cowboys, you made a big jump. I gave the Cowboys and Bears big jumps initially, and I was higher on them than you. And then when you did your last kind of iteration, you gave them big, big, big moves.
Yeah.
Um, the Chargers, you really punished. I punished them a little bit, but not quite the same. So they'll obviously be moving down. The Bucks obviously moved down as well.
Yeah.
Um, what do you want to point out here? Where are you at looking at my ranking compared to yours?
Yeah, so first off, let's just all give me credit for predicting that Daniel Jones with a fractured fibula would have led the Colts to the sixth seed right now and be ahead of all these teams. I totally predicted
Yeah,
that. It
nailed
was
that one.
obvious
Mhm.
before the season. No one else got on board with that. So, no, they were the team I was going to talk about. Like Daniel Jones' ADOT is really good. Like he's pushing the ball downfield, and he
Mhm.
doesn't have to be perfect at it because they have Jonathan Taylor and they have a good offensive line, and so their defense, especially if Sauce Gardner comes around, is really legit. The Jags, I don't know if I'm going to fight you on the Jags too much. They've won their last three games though. They've just been kind of steady eddies this whole year. Not as exciting. I do like kind of the building chemistry between Trevor Lawrence and Jacoby Myers. I feel like their offense is okay, their defense is okay, and they just keep kind of stringing together wins. So I had a hard time with them because at first, but I'm not going to fight you on them because at first I had the same vibe. I was like, this team isn't as good as we had them. Um, I really wanted to move the Texans up there because their defense is just nasty right now, and I I can't get over it how good their defense has looked recently. They're first in first downs allowed per game. Their defense is so good, and even some of these obscure stats. And so, I think if their offense is if they're able to win games with Davis Mills, I think C.J. Stroud coming back. They still have some issues there, but I think they'll be in good shape. So I feel pretty confident about the Texans. The Niners only fell for me because a little bit of a lighter schedule. Otherwise, I kind of like them, and I didn't like their performance against the Panthers. But if we're going to talk good about the Panthers, maybe their poor performance against them isn't the end of the world. But especially now that Purdy's been back, I think that the Niners are in line to really kind of light it up here at the end with at least offensively. And I think the NFC West, it could very well be the team that gets three out of the four into the playoffs this year because the Lions have a lot of work to do if the North is going to be that division. So I'm so like what I'm in terms of sorting this out. Um, you still have the Broncos up here. I think if we were to remove the Jags, and obviously we already put the Niners up there, I think I would be okay with you taking the Niners at 10. Could we go Niners, Broncos, Texans, 10, 11, 12
Mhm.
before we get into like the Bucks and the Chargers?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I think that's
That
good.
seems like the best consensus there.
Yeah. All right, let me hit it. Let me hit a couple of those teams that you mentioned. So Niners, if we're gonna have at 10, that's up 3 spots from last time. You mentioned it, not an impressive resume of teams they've played this month. They're 9-4 on the season, 4-1 on the month, but they're beating those teams by double digits. And that Panthers game was ugly from a Brock Purdy arm strength interception standpoint. But they still, what was that, like 24-9, I think was the final score, something like
Yeah.
that. So it was actually encouraging to see the other phases of the game for San Francisco kind of take over and play so well.
Yep.
They're 10th in DVOA, sixth on offense, 24th on defense, but we kind of knew that going into the season. Um, so I'm just happy that they're winning these games by double digits, even with that bad defense, and the offense is only getting healthier. So
Yep.
so I'm still very much in the like they should be in that tier of like be in the playoffs, potentially a spoiler kind of team for one of the upper seeded, one of the division winner kind of teams. So I'm all in there. Um, the Texans. Let's talk about the Texans. 7-5 on the season, but 4-1 this month. They have wins over the Jags, the Titans, the Bills, and the Colts, and they lose to
Mhm.
the Broncos. They're eighth in DVOA, 24th on offense, second on defense. The offensive line is settled. Trent Brown is playing right tackle now. Titus Howard is playing guard. Um, and between one of the young guys, Ariante Ursarir, Blake Fisher, they're playing left tackle. So they're getting, at least they're getting a young guy getting some snaps at left tackle. That's nice. But they've just kind of settled. And the defense, most importantly, has become that juggernaut it was meant to be. And they were a good scoring defense all year. We cited that early. But this is a defense that you feel, right? And before the season, we talked about there's really only like 3 to 4 defenses that are like truly impactful on how good if they actually make their team.
Yep.
Um, and they went from like being a yeah top 10 good defense to like, oh, okay, no, it's the Seahawks and it's them.
Yep.
The Broncos are teetering with their, defensive backfield injuries and stuff, but the Seahawks and the Texans are the defenses that are
Yep.
um defining this season. So they're going to get that move up to 12, we said, right? And that'll
Yep.
be a move up of 4 spots, which is nice for them.
Yep.
And then the Jaguars. This was the other team I did the deep one on in this kind of group. So they're 8-4, 4-1 this month. Wins over the Raiders, Chargers, Cardinals, Titans, and they lose to the Texans. 12th in DVOA, still just 21st on offense, 10th on defense still. So that's nice that the defense has leveled out because remember last month it shot down because they stopped forcing all the turnovers, but they're leveling out. They're a good run defense, so that's really helping them. The star wide receivers, quote unquote, have been out. And Brian Thomas Jr. He just made his return from the shoulder injury last week. Travis Hunter is obviously done for the season. Um, but the team's better with those guys out, right? Even with that defensive turnover regression. Best I can come up with is it's been a favorable schedule this month against 3 teams with losing records, and
Yep.
then the Texans and Chargers, who are still just like mid to slightly above mid teams. Lawrence's pass attempts per game are also down this month, and their rush attempts are back up. So some of that could be game circumstance, right? They're playing worse teams, they're getting earlier leads, they're running the ball out. But we highlighted their strong running game at the end of September in the 2.0 version of this. Then they tried to fix the passing game by doing all the stuff outside the numbers because Brian Thomas Jr. didn't want to go over the middle. Um, and then Travis Hunter starts getting more involved on the offensive side of the ball and things took a turn for them in October. It was like, okay, well, we got ahead of our skis. We got away from the run game. We tried to get Lawrence and Hunter, and then Lawrence and Brian Thomas back on the same page. And now it's like those guys are out. Jacoby Myers will just fit in where we need him. Get back to our run game. Things have settled back in now. Um, where they are officially as a team is, and it looks different than we thought, but I think they're about the team that we expected in terms of overall ability. Um,
Yep.
the true good defenses of the league can knock them off their game. Texans, Seahawks, Rams, or one of the other teams I was talking about before. But the average to below average defenses, the Jags can move the ball on and get done what they want to get done. So I'm certainly okay with. We had them at 14 last time. I technically moved them down 1 to 15 just because of those teams jumping. Um, I'm not going to get quite to 11 like we talked about. We have our 10, 11, 12 set, but I can give the Jags a little bit of a bump somewhere here.
Put him at 13. Is
Yeah, I think that's
that
good.
what you're saying? Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I gotta find a better spot to put these other ones. Let's just put them in a goofy red line area up here. All right, so we're going 49ers. I really hope everyone enjoys this. It's like playing the screensaver game, like you're watching to see where the little square is gonna touch if
Oh,
it's
I
gonna get
used
in
to
the
love
corner.
watching that thing.
Heck
Yep.
yeah. All right, so that's 10, 11. We said Texans at 12, right? So the Texans
Oh,
are
yeah.
moving up. Jags at 13.
Yep.
Move them up a spot. I like that because at the end of the day, man, they're leading the AFC South now, and then
Yeah.
again, it's different than we expected.
Right.
But just leaning into the run game, being a good run team and a good run stopping team, and then with a little bit of Lawrence mixed in, is a good formula, I think. Um, all right, let's sort out some of these other teams here. The
Yeah.
Ravens, we both moved out of this tier entirely.
Yes. Well,
Um,
I think they were only at 16 last time, right?
yes, yep,
So they didn't drop too much because they've been winning, but they do not look the same for sure.
yeah. So let's talk about the teams that are kind of moving up into this realm. You have the Bears and the Cowboys. Um, You push the Bucks down. I also have the Bears, so we're gonna see the Bears here soon. Who else did I have in
We
here
have the
that you
Chargers
did?
that we haven't talked about yet because
Yeah,
I
I haven't.
knocked them just out of this tier.
Okay, so let me get this Ravens little logo here. Uh, oh no, that's not it. Hope everyone enjoyed that. Let's get the Bears up here. Let's talk about the Bears. Talk to me about Chicago. What are you seeing from them this
So
month?
I moved them up. So I after my tweaking, I moved them up even more just because I feel like in this moment, this is what they've earned. Because my write-up was actually a little bit more of on the downturn because um, I think their defense is a little bit too takeaway heavy or reliant on takeaways. And again, people would say, well, that's stupid. Of course, you want your defense to cause turnovers. I'm saying, yes, I agree with that, but I don't know how sustainable it is. And I know
Yeah,
it's week
exactly.
14 and they're leading the NFC North, so maybe it is sustainable, but teams are moving the ball on them just fine. Like they're not stopping anybody, they're just forcing a lot of turnovers. So again, I'm trying to give them their credit now, putting them here in the top 16, but I don't think they're going to win the North. And, I wouldn't be surprised if they fell out of the playoffs. I think they at this point they have a good shot to make the playoffs. But I'm just saying I don't know if they have um I don't know if they have the consistency there. And then speaking of consistency, like Caleb Williams, for all the great plays, he's still like one of the worst in adjusted completion percentage. Like he's still a
Hmm.
little bit all over the place. And that's the roller coaster I think we're going to see from Caleb Williams and the Bears for the foreseeable future. He's going to be what did I write down? He's ninth in big time throws and fifth in overall dropback. So he's making huge throws, right?
Right.
But he's also missing receivers and not
Hmm.
being completely accurate. And at this point of his career, these are the things that should be improving and not having him be stuck down here because he's played now a season and a half plus. And so when you don't see that development quite there, and so this team, I put them at 14 in my head. I kind of envision them as like a 7 seed in the NFC. I think that's a possibility. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game though, right? I think when it comes down to it in crunch time, you were talking about it with like the Texans stuff, like when teams that make the playoffs have to go up against those really elite defenses in a game where everything matters. I don't think Caleb Williams is ready for that quite yet. So that's my main thing about them. I think their defense is a little bit too reliant on takeaways and not just being able to stop people. And Caleb Williams still is not consistent enough. But at the moment, the way their things are clicking for them, like they've earned at least this tier. We both had them in this tier, so
Yep.
I'd be happy with them anywhere from 14 to 16. I think I had them at 16 initially anyway before I started tweaking. So um, that's where I'm at the Bears.
So all those concerns noted, they're 9-3 on the season. They're currently leading the NFC North, and they're 5-0 this month.
Yeah,
They have wins over the Bengals, Giants, Vikings, Steelers, and Eagles. They're 19th in DVOA, 12th on offense, 25th on defense. Uh, but you're right. The defense I wrote has holes, and the passing game isn't consistent on offense. But it's a well-coached team with a strong identity and still benefiting from turnovers this late in the year. I wrote this exact thing, might just be that sort of year for them on that
yep,
side of the ball, and it's no longer a short-term fluke like the Steelers and the Jags were early in the season.
yeah,
You can't live off of it year after year. You can't. You have to take this in context. You can't go into 2026 and say
no.
we were we were a high turnover forcing team last year. We'll do that again. That'll paper over any defensive needs. No, you need to fortify it. Um, but there's a team or two every single year, and it's usually the Steelers that their defense does win by leading the league in turnovers, leading the
Yep.
league in forced turnovers. And it might just be the Bears' turn for that in
The
terms of
Bears,
sort of how we
yeah.
feel this year.
Sorry to cut you off, but I was going to point out that too. The Bears are plus 17 in turnover differential. That's the best in the league. The next best team is at plus 9. So like it's so drastic in their favor right now that
Yeah.
that's why it's hard to believe it'll be sustained.
But look at the Packers, right? The Packers, the same thing last year. They
Yeah.
for the whole year they were a top three team in forced turnovers. This year it came down a little bit, but what did they do? They added Michael Parsons. They continued to add to the cornerback room. So they fortified it. That's what they did, and ultimately their defense benefited from it.
Yep.
Um, Let's talk about the Bucks and the Chargers real quick. Big slides for both of us. I had the Chargers going down 3 spots to 13, the Bucks moving down 5 spots to 12. You push them back even further.
Yeah.
The Bucks are 7-5, 1-3 this month. They beat the Cardinals, but they lose to the Patriots, Bills, and Rams, all teams we have in the top
Tough
eight.
schedule.
DVOA, they're 15th overall, 18th on offense, 8th on defense, and they've continued to take on injuries, right? I mean, I forget if Mike Evans got hurt since we last potted, but like they're getting Chris Godwin back and Evans goes out. Guys are in and out on the offensive line still. For the Chargers, they're 8-4. They're 3-1 this month. And yeah, they're out of the top half of the league for you. They've beaten the Titans, the Steelers, and the Raiders. Very easy schedule.
Yep.
And they lose to the Jaguars. DVOA, they're 17th, 13th, and 15th. Um, and I will just say for the Chargers, I didn't dig into their defensive numbers. But that 15th in DVOA is a little disappointing. So I don't know if that's again just a like they
Yep.
don't get a lot of turnovers, they don't get a lot of sacks thing. Obviously they're without Khalil Mack for a little while, but he's been back now for a good stretch. Um, I wanted that to be closer to top 10 based on Jesse Minter and based on what people were saying about him. But I think I said this preseason, like that overall roster, even though the idea of what that defense was going to be because of Minter in year two with the group and some cool stuff he did last year, at the end of the day, the roster, the talent just wasn't that good for the defense. So they're currently 15th in DVOA, and it's certainly not a group that you feel week to week. Talk to me about moving the Bucks and Chargers so far down.
Yeah, well, and I can make it easy if we want to just kind of take the Cowboys out of this tier because their defense is only recently started to improve and not for that full 5 weeks that we've been talking about. Their offense is
Mhm.
obviously elite, and that's why they need to move up a little bit. But for them, they were pretty far buried. So we can I think you had them right out of this tier at 17. Yeah, I think that's
Yes,
probably fair.
because that's up
Um,
3 spots for the Cowboys. Man, shouts out to the Chargers and Bucks. I just laid that whole thing out, and you just immediately start talking about the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is working his magic on you. ESPN's got you on a stranglehold
that's
talking about the
right.
Cowboys.
No, the that's true. The Cowboys, the Chargers. We've been we've been questioning their offensive line play all season, and that's kind of dictated almost everything it feels like. And so when I looked at the Chargers, even though they went 3-1, I looked at they are they were all against bad teams, and the Bucks conversely only won once, but they had a really tough schedule. You laid that out as well. I think that's what ended up giving the Bucks the nod to stay in this tier for me, but not necessarily something I'll fight for. Justin Herbert's been sacked 38 times, which is fourth most I think in the league right now. Like that is just for a guy that's really good at eluding things in the pocket too, mind you. He's not like it's Kirk Cousins back there, right? Like he
Yep.
is usually really mobile. And now he's got this fractured, was his hand or wrist or whatever that he had to have surgery on, and now he's
Yes.
day to day. Yeah. Somehow he's still day to day and might play. Like football players are crazy, man. And so I totally still believe in his talent. No, Marion Hampton might come back, might give a little injection into this offense for sure. But I feel like they benefited from that schedule because the one good team they played in that stretch, I believe, was the Jags, and they lost 35-6. And so that number, you mentioned, I forget which team you're talking about, but you mentioned like there's not really been a big stinker. The Chargers are capable of some
Hmm.
stinkers, and so
Hmm.
um, whether it's because of injuries, because like you mentioned, the defensive talent isn't quite there yet. They just don't feel like a playoff team right now. I definitely think they could and should make the playoffs with the talent they have and with Justin Herbert, but that's explains the fall. Might be a little bit harsh in that regard, but when I decided to move the Cowboys up here, I started looking at with these few teams like, well, if the Cowboys and Chargers played right now, right? I know that's not the right way to do power rankings. I did not do that for all the teams, I promise. But in this sense, there was kind of a jumbled mess for me, and I was like, well, I think the Cowboys would take a game against the Chargers. So I was like, let's give them a little bit of a nod. But for the essence of the power rankings that we're used to, I think it makes sense to keep the Cowboys just outside at 17. Um, I'd advocate for the Bears ahead of the Chargers. I wouldn't stop you from putting the Bucks at 14 because they were the highest of those three. And
Hmm. Hmm.
with the tough schedule and the injuries, it feels like they're the most likely to rebound just fine, um, and stay consistent. So,
Man, I do love seeing the Cowboys there though. Man,
yeah,
Dak is my guy.
Dak is dealing right now. He's
My
absolutely dealing
God.
right now.
And like it's kind of fun that Jerry was right. It's kind of fun that Jerry was right. Now listen, Michael Parsons, I didn't even get to say this when we talked about the Packers, but he's got 6 sacks in the last 3 games. Like he's doing exactly what he was built to do there. But to I think this was Jerry's point. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit here, but it's not that Parsons wasn't a good player worth the money. It's that where they were in the roster construction of the defense.
Yes.
Look at the Raiders. One great edge rusher. Look at the Browns. One great edge rusher a
Right.
defense does not make, right? But if you
Right.
get if you get a couple of defensive tackles, get a couple Pro Bowl defense tackles, then that edge rusher's job is easier. And listen, the
Yes.
Packers obviously traded away a defense tackle, but their defense tackles were better players than the Cowboys had,
Yep.
right? Um, so anyways, whatever. But I
Yes.
love
No,
seeing the Cowboys here.
I see what you're saying.
Um,
My wife's got Dak on her fantasy team this year, and
oh,
has been
she's
reaping the benefits of 30 burgers like every week. So,
he's incredible, man. But listen, so let's do because part of me is with you where I'm like, if we take this group and listen, you have the Chargers at 17, I have the Cowboys at 17. So
yeah.
these 4 teams are kind of all in a cluster together for us.
Yep.
But if we're saying 4.0, and by we, I mean me anecdotally just threw that in at the top of the show, is saying who are the real teams and really in this? if you're lining up the Bucks, the Chargers, and the Bears and the Cowboys in a playoff game, dude, I think it's the Cowboys I don't want to see out of all those teams,
Yeah.
man.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to see Dak, and I don't want to see that run game, and I don't want
Right.
to see talk about talk about the coaching, man. Talk about what Schottenheimer's doing. Clayton Adams coming from Arizona, who we've talked about every single month. Like that run game is going. That offensive line looks good. There have been guys on that offensive line that I don't even know who they are, and they're playing well. And Quinn Williams just looks like a beast, man.
Yeah,
So like
he's something else.
I like ultimately love Herbert and love the Chargers, but like the roster just leaves you wanting more week in and week out. And Trevor Penning's playing significant snaps, and the defense just is not where people kind of wanted it to be preseason. And for the Bucks, good team in theory, but everybody's hurt, and yet they're still playing
Yep.
above their weight a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
And the Bucks defense has never been particularly great either. So like the Cowboys defense still statistically isn't very good, but their offense is elite. The Bucks aren't have the elite offense and their defense is pretty middling, so you know, it's hard to get
and
super excited about
and the
them.
Bears are getting all the turnovers, and their run game is really good. Um, it just feels here. So that's our thinking this week, right? That's like what we're doing right now. Now, the
Right.
reason we do our power rankings the way we do them is we don't want to be prisoners of the moment, right? We
Yeah.
don't do the week to week power rankings. And a thing we usually fall back on when we have these discussions is how far up and how far down should teams really move?
Right.
So if the Bears were going to be up at 14, they would be moving up 5 spots, which isn't bad. It's pretty good. If the
Yep.
Cowboys were going to be at 15, they would also be moving up 5 spots. But let's say we put the Bucks there at 16 where you have them. They'd be moving down 9 spots.
Oof.
And if the Chargers are at 17, they would be moving down 7 spots. That just feels like punishment that doesn't isn't
Yeah.
warranted for teams that have their quarterbacks at least healthy, are still winning games from. I mean, the Bucks are in the midst of a really tough slide, but
Right.
um, that's still if the Bucks hold at 14, that's still down 7 spots for them, which I think is a pretty good hit for a team
Yep.
that's been banged up, but is 1-3 in the last month, but it's
Yep.
still 7-5 on the year. And the Chargers, if we put them at 15, they're down 2 spots, but they're literally 3-1 this month.
Right. Right.
So
But
I
they
think I
only they get the minor punishment for an easy schedule, right? And not looking
right.
particularly
We're not saying, hey, 3-1 this month, let's move them up 3 spots. They're still
right.
moving down a couple spots because we
Right.
recognize it's not a great schedule. But
Right.
that's where moving down 3-4 spots is other teams were outplaying you, so they jumped you.
Right.
Moving down 7, 8, 9 spots is you're falling
Punishment.
because you're doing something wrong. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's probably what we should do. Yes.
Okay. So we've got Bucks at 14, Chargers at 15, Bears at 16.
Perfect.
All right. Let's get into this next group here.
All right. Well,
We're getting
Cowboys
close
won't be
to
17.
we're getting close to the almost Rans. Um, yes, Cowboys at 17. That's where I had them. I want to talk about the Carolina Panthers now. Those little cats.
Those
Those little
little
those little
cats.
those little cats, man. Um, the Carolina Panthers need to be number 18. And if
Okay.
we still did cards, I would be interested in doing that, but that's not quite where we're at. Where did this Chargers bolt come from? Where did I? Oh, that was yours. What did I do with that? Oh, wait, do I? No, I don't need to move them over. What am I doing here?
Oh, I don't have a Chargers bolt in my column now.
Oh yeah. All right. Well,
You have two
you have the
Steelers in
Steelers
my
twice.
column.
Where did you have the Steelers? You had them at 19, right?
Yeah. So the Charger, I just had the Chargers at 17. So
How that? I don't know. I don't know how that happened, everybody. I don't know why I would have the Steelers in a couple different spots as I try to sneak them into being a good team. Just kidding. I'm always lower on the Steelers than
you are
Josh is.
always lower on the Steelers.
Now, who am I missing here? Oh, wait, that was the Steeler logo. That's great. I know what I'm doing. All right. Oh, wait, where's the Panthers logo? Ah, I'm tripping. I'm all over the place. Oh, they're all the
They
way down
moved.
here.
Yeah, they moved.
That's right.
They jumped. They did a tier jump. One of the handful that made a tier jump.
So. The Panthers are good, everybody. Let's just quickly let me get out of this screen. I'm fiddling with this thing. Let's talk about the Panthers. Sorry, everybody. The Panthers, I had moving up 7 spots to 18. This would be a big jump. But they're 7-6 on the year. They're 3-2 this month. Wins over the Packers, Falcons, and Rams. And they lose to the Saints and the 49ers. So like the Saints loss makes even less sense than being the Packers and Rams, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
DVOA 25th, 26th, 22nd. It's not great. Um, but like everything else around the quarterback is good, and it's just about if the quarterback is good or not that day. The coaching is good. You mentioned the defense. I talked about them a couple of weeks ago. Like the run game is there. The offensive line is mauling people, even though they're on third stringers. This is a good team
Yeah.
with a bad and not NFL built quarterback.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense that there's going to be stinkers. Um, and I ultimately have more fun and week to week feel more confident in watching this team play football than anybody else we haven't talked about yet. So that's why I think the
Yeah.
Panthers, I had them at 18. Where did you actually have them?
I just had him at 20. I had him moving up 5 spots as well. So I'm totally happy to put them at 18. Like you said, their defense is good. They're just a quarterback away. My big issue is if you think to the I think we already referenced this game once, but the Niners Panthers game, Bryce Young has that play where he rolls out to the right, like inside the 5 yard line, and if he just takes 3 steps forward, he has a rushing touchdown. But instead, he throws a pick at the back of the end zone, and it goes the other direction. The game before that was the one where he threw for 400 million yards. Like it's so inconsistent. Um, and that play where he's trying to make a passing touchdown, like I get that. Like guys try to make plays when they're inexperienced, but this is his end of his third year. Like he's been a starter, he's been benched, he's been back, he's in his third year. That's not a play, that's not a mistake you can make. You have to be able to recognize that, hey, I'm in my 20s. I can outrun anybody for 4 yards. Like that's how close he was to the end zone. It was just a kind of a boneheaded play. So I'm nitpicking that one play, but the idea is, like you said, this team with like a Drake May, we'd be talking about them in the top 10 like the Patriots,
Super
right?
Bowl.
Like this
Mhm.
is like they're they're kind of yeah, yeah. So, yeah, no qualms with them at 18 at all.
All right, and then I have my first official goofy name tier, as you can see in my 19 to 22. The AFC North. AFC North is the mediocre tier of the NFL right now.
The most
Eight
mediocre.
that like if we go back to this kind of group here, right? Like in our consensus number, uh Colts, 49ers, Broncos, Texans, that's probably like you're still a good team. Like we could see you maybe being a spoiler in the playoffs. Jags, Bucks, Chargers, Bears, Cowboys, Panthers. It's kind of like mediocre good, right?
Yeah,
Like this is just kind of fun and interesting, but like we're not really taking you seriously right now. The AFC North is mediocre bad. I
yeah,
mean, the Ravens, even though they're 4-1 this month, are 6-6 on the season. Those wins are against the Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, and Jets, but they lose that game to the Bengals. The defense maybe can't save itself this year, like in
yeah,
normal years like this, where like Lamar's kind of banged up and hurt. You're like, well, he'll turn it on, right? He'll turn it on, and that defense has flipped the switch. The defense hasn't flipped the switch yet, and that makes me nervous. They are a bottom five pass rush. Whether you look at sacks, pressure rate, time to pressure, compared to last year when they were top 10 in all of those metrics. So that doesn't just get turned around, especially when you don't have your, Pro Bowl or Nnamdi Madubuike in the middle of that.
yeah.
Um, and on offense, Lamar was hurt for a large, almost, I would say probably the entire season, except for like the first week or two. Um, and he is starting to look healthier now, but the timing is all off.
Yeah.
So like that's probably going to get itself sorted out in a week or so. Um, they play a Steelers defense this week, so that might help them. Um, but like that, so they're just not inspiring a lot of confidence. So 19 for them. Maybe I'm doing what you did with the Chargers a little bit. Like, should they move down 4 spots because guys are hurt? I don't know, but like the numbers don't work in their favor. and,
I
and the
think
outlook of what else is happening isn't helping them either.
I think they punished themselves by how pathetic they looked against the Bengals. Like you have the fumble right before the end zone from Isaiah Likely, of Zay Flowers fumbling at the end of the game. Derrick Henry hasn't gotten it going. Like there are a lot of flaws with this team, and on top of it all, your all-world quarterback is not right. Lamar is not
Yeah.
right, and you could easily sell me on, well, he's still getting back. He's basically practicing twice a week, maybe, so he's not probably not building up that chemistry, that rapport that he needs to be where he is. And 3 weeks from now, they could be looking elite again offensively. Who knows? But right now, they don't look right, and they definitely are in the mediocre bad category. I didn't even realize that. I love that you have your whole division right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go ahead and just lock that in, because that would make sense with which team did I? Oh, I had the Browns even further. I had the Browns further
You had the
down, but
Browns and Bengals both in the bottom tier, but again, like once
yeah.
we're outside this top 20, I think all these teams are pretty
No, we had
interchangeable.
the
But
Bengals at the same spot.
oh, did we? You had them up
They're
there?
both
Oh
at
yeah, duh, I'm looking
21.
at it right
But I
now.
had the Browns at
Um,
28.
yeah.
They
And
should be
listen,
higher
man,
than that.
The Browns defense, they're third in
Yeah.
DVOA still despite everything else, but they're 1-3 this month. They beat the Raiders, but they lose to the Jets, Ravens, and Niners. Um, but despite like the fact that they're still third in defensive DVOA at this point of the season with nothing
Yeah.
else really to play for, again, kind of does speak to that like how big of a idea sacks are for that because Myles Garrett onto himself has more sacks than like half the teams in the NFL right now.
Right.
So that's obviously boosting that number. But just this is the gross, bad, mediocre division, and they should all go together, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And then after that, it's truly like you don't have much going on. So, what other teams that we kind of have on this page and this tier do you want to shout out?
I don't need to shout out anybody. We both had my Vikes at 24. I think it's pretty clear what our problem is there. We have really young, inexperienced quarterbacks, and so our defense is on the field too long, and it's quite simple. And then if we don't play perfectly, we're not going to be able to really compete. I did move my Dolphins up because you know how big of a Dolphins guy I am.
I was
But they actually,
personally offended that not only did you move them up so far, originally you had them next to the Steelers, which I'm pretty sure you just did that on purpose to make me mad. Not even because I think the Steelers are like a much better team, but just to
yeah.
look at those two teams next to each other, like I took personal offense to that.
Yeah, at first I so you should. Just kidding.
I'm sure you were just sitting there thinking about
Oh
where
yes.
you were going to write them down. Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
No, I mean they beat the Bills pretty handily. They beat the Commanders in OT, they beat the Saints, so they didn't have a tough schedule, and they can't throw the ball, which is wild. Their passing offense is atrocious, but they're running all over people. Um and again, they haven't been the greatest matchup. So I'm not gonna advocate super hard for the Dolphins this high. I think what you said about the Browns makes sense, and I did not want to have the Falcons that high, to be honest, either. But I just kind of these last few teams, like it's funny, the team I tried to advocate the most for is not even in this tier. I want to move the Giants up. I really like the Giants for some
We
reason, but
can't do
there's
this again. We did this last month. We moved them up 5 spots last month. I knew they were going to come up again. I knew you were going to bring them up.
I know I
We have
can't
to
move
sort
them
out
up on
Washington and
moral.
Atlanta in a second.
I
But
can't
here's
move
New
the
York,
Giants up on moral victories. I can't. I know, but
which we said last time, and then we did it because we got to the end of the podcast and we were like, vibes, it'll be fun. Here's
it'll be
where the
fun.
Giants are at right now. They're 2-10. They're 0-5 this month. They have not won a game since we moved them up 5 spots. They've lost to the Niners, Bears, Packers, Lions, and Patriots. Tough schedule
Yeah.
if you want to give them that.
Yep.
DVOA 24th, 19th on offense. Shout out Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston. 29th on defense. Oof. Head coach fired. Non-competitive in these losses too. That was my big thing for this when I
Yeah.
got down to these bottom teams. Who's at least competitive in these losses? And the Giants are not. And
Right.
it's pretty despicable that we thought the thing they would hang their hat on this year was the defense, especially up front. And they're a bottom five defense and they're a bottom five run defense.
Yeah.
That's that's tough, man. You got a third overall pick in an edge rusher. You've got multiple high picks traded for and
Yeah.
lots of money in an edge rusher. You've got a former first round pick in an edge rusher. You've got Dexter Lawrence as the big nose tackle. It money and Bobby Okereke. It is disgusting
Yeah.
how bad their run defense is considering all that. And
Let
and
me
that
just
speaks to,
say,
just buy in and all that sort of stuff. But
let me just say
We
for the record
we
that I
can't
did
move them
have
back
them
up.
at 29. So while I said I wanted to move them up, I didn't do the Josh thing where I found some obscure reason to move them up. I did put them at 29. So
So we're obviously also not putting the Dolphins at 23.
no.
Um, you have the Falcons at 22. I have the Commanders at 23. You have, and I have the Falcons at 25, and you have the Commanders at 25. So one of those two teams should be our 23 after, the bad, mediocre AFC North, and then your Vikings at 24.
You're talking about the Falcons or the Commanders?
Yes, Falcons or Commanders at 23. Who
Well,
do you want to who do you want to advocate for here?
here's how you can decide. Do you want to
Okay.
put the Commanders there who have had Mariota play pretty decently, all things
Mm-hmm.
considered, and have battled through not having their top receiver for most of the season and a weird running back carousel and a defense that just gets eaten alive? Um, or do you want to put the team where we should just give credit to Bijan Robinson for being an absolute dude who doesn't get enough nationally televised games?
You knew
That's
this
the
would be a
argument.
conundrum for me because we're talking about a running back here, but it is Bijan Robinson. Let's do this. Let's do this. Commanders at 23 would be moving down 5 spots. The Falcons at 23 would be staying pat. And the Falcons are 4-8 on the year, 1-4 this month. They have only beaten the Saints. They've lost to the Colts, Panthers, and Patriots and Jets. DVOA, they are 21st overall, but 16th and 16th on each side of the ball. Versus the Commanders, who are 0-4 this month, 3-9 on the season. They've lost to the Lions, Seahawks, Dolphins, and Broncos. DVOA 22nd, 20th, and 27th. Um,
I did have one stat on the Falcons that might sway your
mm,
position.
okay.
You know, my new favorite red zone plus minus.
Yep.
The Falcons are the only sub 500 team with a positive red zone plus minus.
How often do they get there? Do we have that?
I, I don't know, but they're plus 9. I even wrote after that. I said, I don't know exactly what this means. They're kind of an anomaly.
I just think it's
But
funny when you were talking about like the whole Mariota thing and then relaying it to the Falcons. I just thought it was funny that the Commanders don't have their quarterback. Meanwhile, the Falcons have Kirk Cousins, who
yeah,
was famously with Washington for quite a long time.
yeah,
Um, the Falcons are just gross, man. The
yeah.
Falcons are
I
gross.
think I think you said that
They
we
need to
got to
be
stop the
punished.
slide. Yeah, we got to stop the slide for the Commanders, and the Falcons don't get to stand pat for being
Yeah.
4-8. That's for
Okay.
sure. That's
All right. So
fair.
that's that group. Um,
This is definitely the sad sack now.
I love that we're gonna get to the 90-minute mark. All right. So we both had the Cardinals at 26. So that's where they're gonna be.
Yep.
Um, The Falcons will be at 25. That's where I had them. You had them just a couple spots higher, but you got Washington there who moved up. Oh gosh. Here's where I had the Dolphins at
Okay.
27. I gave them their flowers here. I moved them up 4 whole spots, Josh. That's big for me with the
That
Dolphins.
is big for you.
They're 5-7 on the year. They're 3-1 this month. They've beaten the Bills, the Commanders, and the Saints. They lose to the Ravens. The vindication I felt when they lost so badly to this Ravens team, who like Lamar had just come back and then was out for 2 more weeks after that or whatever it was. But then they go and beat the Bills by 30 or whatever. They're so I don't know what's going on here. But listen, they're 3-1. They're playing hard for the coach.
Yep.
5-7 on the year. I moved them up 4 spots. I can get them to 27. If you even
Okay.
wanted to fight to get them ahead of the Falcons or Cardinals, I wouldn't be that mad about it. But I don't think the Dolphins need to move up 6 spots just so the
Yeah.
Falcons can move up or move back 3 and the Cardinals can move back 3.
No. Let's put the Dolphins at 27. That makes sense.
Okay. Here is the other big thing I need to fight for in this group. The only thing I need to fight for in this group.
The
The
only
Saints
thing.
need to be at 32.
Saints at 32. Oh, okay. Okay.
The Saints are at 32. I'm also moving the Titans up 2 spots and doing this. Let me talk about the Saints.
Wow. Okay.
They're 2-10. They're 1-3 this month. They have beaten the Panthers, who have been a couple pretty good teams this
That's
season.
true.
But they've lost to the Rams, the Falcons, and the Dolphins. They lose to the Falcons, which like if you're on the losing end of a Falcons game, it's usually really bad.
Pretty bad.
DVOA 30th, 28th, 19th. But they are non-competitive in these losses. Like we're talking 20 plus points. Worst of all, because we this is what we use the 32 rank spot for.
Yep.
They worked out Justin Tucker.
Oh, did
Why?
they really?
Why?
I did.
Why did they work out a guy under investigation
Right.
for everything that he's under investigation for,
Yep.
to be an old kicker on a bad team. What are you gaining
Nothing.
by doing that other than just showing the world what you do and do not care about? He
Yeah.
didn't even make the team. So like they brought, when teams have these like workouts for kickers mid-season, they
Yep.
bring in like six, seven, eight guys that are just on their couches or on practice squads and like watch them kick for, I don't know, 15 minutes probably, and like give them a little workout just to see if
Yeah.
their leg still works. Why did he need to be there for that? What was the point of that?
Yeah.
So you Saints get 32 because
Okay.
of that, and then also just like they're non-competitive these games. The
That's
Raiders are
fine.
non-competitive in these games, so I move them down 1 to 31 from 30 because the Titans, I'm giving the Titans some flowers.
Okay.
Even though they're 0-4 this month, they haven't won a game in like 2 months. 1
No,
and 11
but
on the season,
they have the rookie quarterback excuse that they're
and
letting
he's
him play
good,
it out. But
and he's good, and he's
he's
cool.
good. He's good, and he's making, at least from what I've seen. I'll be honest. I haven't watched a ton of Titans football this year, but
Yeah, that's fine.
the mistakes that Cam Ward's making are typical rookie mistakes. He's holding the ball too long, whether that's because he's not confident enough to find a window, or the coverage is so good, or he doesn't, the speed of the game is a little off. These are all things that are going to fix, right? Um, because what you do see him do that I like is you see him kind of bounce around the pocket, and it looks like he's going to take off, but then he goes, "No, I got to stop. I got to see if I have a play downfield first." Like he's still looking to pass first. He's not scrambling too much, at least from what I've seen. 'Cause that's not really his game anyway necessarily, but I think the Titans have stuck with him and they didn't try to bench him to try to win more games middle of the season. They're doing This is the process, and so yeah, they can get move up 2 spots for the plot process. I did not know about the Justin Tucker thing, so I'm totally with you there on the 32, and we both have the Raiders at 31. I wrote about the Raiders that they just look like, when they play games, they look like it's their first practice of the week. Like it's so disjointed and terrible. I'm like, these are professionals. It should be crisp. Like, you know how good teams can script their opening drives, right? Like everything is just clicking because they've repped that stuff so much. And then the Raiders just look like they haven't practiced the snap count, and Geno Smith forgot how to throw the football. It's just a weird,
Oh my God, the
weird
Geno
thing.
thing, man.
It's a bummer. We're Geno guys, and he's not living up to it
We are
right
Geno
now.
guys. This is super disappointing. Um, I will say the Raiders. I will. Um, I'll be talking about the Raiders again soon. I'll do a plug here, but Pro Football Enterprises with Ben Parker, we're going to start a coaching carousel hot seat preview kind of series this week. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be talking about the Raiders plenty. Um, all right, the only other teams we haven't talked about on this, I'm not even going to talk about. I'm just going to give you the. I guess we talked about the Giants. I had the Giants above the Jets by 1 spot. You had the Jets above the Giants by 2 spots. Do you have one way or another you wanna
No,
lean on that one?
I have a weird. I don't know why I have such a soft spot for the Jets, but let's keep them down here at 29 because this is the official. I said at the beginning of this that this is my last, giving Justin Fields his last chance, and the fact that he's benched now, and now they want to use him in, special packages, and he's not interested in that, and you can just tell it's not going to end well.
I didn't
Um,
see that. That's tough.
yeah, they wanted him to stay on as QB2, but then like work in packages for him. And he said something about how, well, cold weather and soft tissue injuries, and it's, probably miffed that he's not starting, which I still don't understand why he's not starting. I mean, I know that professionals try to win games, like regardless of record, but still, like this is, I guess they've seen enough. So I guess I have to, like I said at the beginning of the season, this is my last year. I was going to give Justin Fields a chance to be good. And I guess I just have to accept that he's going to be that backup next year for some team that comes in and wins a spot start for a contender or something, and then he'll get another contract after that, and it'll be a little bit of a journeyman thing, but it's a bummer because I think he has the I think he could have gone a lot different in Chicago, and he could be a much different player, but
The Fields thing is such a bummer, man. Everyone knows how I feel about him, how much I liked him in Chicago, and then how much I liked him, um, and wanted it all to work out in Pittsburgh.
yeah.
Alas, that did not happen. So let me just bring this back to everybody. Let's talk about the first score here. The first little wave here. 1 to 16. Rams, Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Patriots at 5. Eagles, Seahawks, Lions, Colts, 49ers round out the top 10. Broncos, Texans, Jags, Bucks. Chargers, Bears. How do you feel about that group right there?
I feel very good, and I guess the team I'm most happy about in this tier is the Texans,
Yeah.
because they felt so uncharacteristically bad. Like we tried to cling to them. I think it was either in the 1.0 after the preseason or the 2.0. And then we were just like, no, this team's done. It's over. But we knew the defense was there. Will Anderson looks like the biggest
Oh,
guy on
dude.
any football field ever. He's insane. And so I like that they're getting back to where they're at because I like DeMeco Ryans as a coach. I thought they were really fun in the playoffs last year, and yeah, if they get into the playoffs, like that's the last team I want to face if I'm in the AFC. That's the absolute last team I want to face because all the other teams you can move the ball on, right? You can get your offense going. I just feel like the Texans are going to sneak in at 10-7 or 11-6, and they're going to wreak havoc in the playoffs. So I'm kind of excited because I like the Texans. So that's what stands out to me in that bracket, and also just the fact that the Patriots look so good right now. And imagine if Mike Vrabel had someone besides Will Levis in Tennessee. Could we be looking at a guy with multiple like conference titles? Who knows? Like, I don't know. Drake May looks every bit the top pick we thought he was, so that's exciting too.
And then let's get into this bottom group here, which I'm still finishing out for everybody, but you know what's going on here. So we got the
Yes.
Giants are here at 28. We had the Dolphins move up to 27. How do you feel about this bottom group? Anyone that you feel particularly terrible about right now?
Particularly terrible. Yeah, the Raiders
Yeah.
are the biggest disappointment. I said that at the beginning. Like we thought this was a 9-8 team that was going to really frustrate some AFC West teams, and Ashton Genty was going to get Rookie of the Year, and Geno was going to be Geno. And then they were going to be a team to be excited about the following year, and they just can't do anything. And like I just mentioned, it's really frustrating. But on a positive note, I'll make a bold
Yeah.
claim right now, Simon, that in Power
Okay.
Rankings 5.0,
Yep.
Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Bengals will all be in the next tier.
And the Bengals. Yeah, we should mention
We didn't really
Joe
talk about the
Burrow's
fact that Joe
back and
Burrow's back and they get to play the Ravens again. It's going to
they
be,
were they were good right away. Um and that would be like Bucks, Chargers, and maybe Jags all falling out, or maybe the Bears come back to earth a little bit.
yes, it would be one
Okay.
of that 13 through 16 range. Those teams I feel like are a little bit in jeopardy. And
Okay.
so that's why it's bold because I don't think three teams will make the tier jump, but
Right.
but those teams are knocking on the door.
We said this, I think just last month, as the Cowboys were kind of moving around and staying competitive. We might have even said it 2 months ago. Like, this is what the Bengals were last year, where the offense is so good that they just kind of have to move around. But the defense, if it shoots them, if it's the reason they fall too many times, that's when they'll get bounced back around, right, in the rankings. But now that the defense might not be horrible, like if it's just
Yep.
regular bad, we talk about this all the time. Like, as long as you're not literally a bottom five, bottom eight defense,
Yep.
but you're going to be a top 10 offense, you can be pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, man, they look awesome. It's so cool.
And the Eagles better
Um,
be careful at 8-4. They don't have any sort of control in that division.
hmm
And that division might
hmm
only get one team in because the West
Yep,
and the North are so good.
yep. Um, it's at the hour 37 mark. I'm not going to get into my Steelers now. You can follow me on Twitter with some various thoughts on that, but I'm sure I'm sure that conversation, the Mike Tomlin ever conversation will come up on that episode with Ben. So let's once again talk about Box Score Network. Listen to all the pods on Box Score Network. Pro Football Enterprises. This week is starting that NFL coaching carousel hot seat conversation show. It's gonna be semi-regular. I forget exactly how often Ben wants to do it, but I'll be on there with him. So to this week's episode, we're recording it Thursday night. So as you're listening to this, if you're listening the day it comes out, um, Thursday night recording. It's going up Thursday night, so you'll be able to listen to it all weekend long. We are going to start mostly with who's on the hot seat, who's not. Why or why not should these guys be on there? It's not quite getting into who are the candidates moving forward, but there will be a little bit of talk on that. I already have one staff kind of pre-built in my head. So if you're a team that has already fired your coach or already fired your GM, or you're thinking it's probably going to happen that you're going to do that, check that show out because I'll have a couple ideas on who the future coaches are going to be. But hot seat conversation, NFL head coaches on Pro Football Enterprises this
Nice.
week. Again, those are our rankings. Josh, anything else for you, man?
No, the Vikings aren't mathematically eliminated, so never give up, never
Do
surrender to
you
quote Galaxy Quest, and we'll always be hopeful.
Can you give a 60-second where you're at with JJ McCarthy? I'm polling Vikings fans. Where are you at with McCarthy right now?
I'm patient, and it's tiresome because I have to tell other people to be patient because
Yeah.
he's clearly not there yet. I'm not going to try to say he's doing good things, but he's also, this is essentially his rookie year. I know sitting behind a guy is always a good method, and so maybe our expectations were a little bit inflated. Um, but it's not looking good, but or it's not good right now. But I still believe in him. I believe in his arm strength. And the biggest thing right now for me that he needs to get coached out of is he needs to take his check down sometimes. It's so frustrating to watch the games and see him looking downfield. He's about to get sacked, and he's got a tight end and a running back to his right that would get a 3 yard gain at the bare minimum. And I'm like, just take that pass, take that pass. And so to me, that's just something that inexperience is doing, and that he'll get to that. We've been trying to commit to the run a little bit more, so I think they're going to help him out. Our offensive line needs to play better too. So I still am hopeful, but then again, I'm the optimist. So there's a lot of people that are already done with him. So
2 weeks ago when I did the awards with Payne, I was debating a Vikings award because I was very much vocal on the like Vikings should have not done the Sam Darnold, but at least kept Daniel Jones for this very reason. I
yep,
was like, we
yep,
went into the season with Sam Howell as the number two, and then it's Carson Wentz.
yep.
Um, and
Because
I was DMing, yes, and
our
I was
defense is
DMing
good.
our buddy John Boyd just yesterday and today about it, getting his thoughts. Because I watched, and I said this with Peyton. I don't think it was even on the show though, but I watched the Lions game and the Bears game. I watched all the dropbacks from those ones, and I'm like, there's stuff here. The things people are most upset about are historically low production, which I get, and
Mhm.
then like some really high level like processing stuff that they want to see from him. Like you said, essentially a rookie, was young coming out, did very little as the quarterback at Michigan. The what Here's what got inflated. Here's my official take. Here's what got inflated with the JJ McCarthy thing to Minnesota. Quarterback whisperer Kevin
Yep,
O'Connell,
yep,
right? Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, amazing defense. Ooh, they reinvested in the offensive line. They already had tackles.
yep,
Um, Yada yada yada. Drop a quarterback in. Look, they did it with Sam Darnold last year. Drop quarterback in. It's going to be great right away.
yep,
The the environment they created for JJ McCarthy wasn't about succeeding in 2025. It was about taking this mold of clay, this young, inexperienced quarterback, and letting him be able to grow and make mistakes in it because you're in an environment where we're going to take our time. This isn't
yep,
Anthony Richardson with the Colts. This isn't Trey Lance with the 49ers. It's where it's like, hey, we have to win now. We have to win for our jobs.
yep,
No, this is, hey, Quezi and KOC we've established ourselves as we know we can win with a pretty good quarterback, but we're trying to get an even better one to win the Super Bowl, right?
yes, yep,
So we're going to let JJ come in. We're going to let him be bad and he's going to learn from it. And it's not just we're going to say we'll let him learn from it and then we'll pull him halfway through year two.
yep,
It's no, we're going to let him learn from it and we're going to figure it out
yep,
because the arm talent is there, the mentality is there,
yep,
enough mobility, enough size, and we're going to work through this thing. So I'm also fairly optimistic now. If we're at this point next year and it's still historically
yep.
bad, then then it's over.
Then it's over. Yep,
But I think that's not what I think we're going to see, but we'll see. We'll monitor it. I'll check back
yep,
at the end of the year. All right. That is going to do it for the episode. Thank you all so much. Again, if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think about the rankings. If you wanted to submit your own rankings, I'd love to see it in the comment section. Again, check out the Box Score Network YouTube channel where you're going to get draft content from me, from Ben's show, and others across Box Score Network as we get closer to the draft. Check out Pro Football Enterprises and that YouTube channel with Ben and his crew. I'll be on there this week as well. Check out all the pods on Box Score Network. Thank you to Josh for being here. We're going to start getting ready for the playoffs here soon, everybody. So be on the lookout for more content. Thank you all so much for being here. We will talk to you again next week. So everyone have fun and be safe out there.